December the 9th, 2005. Four characters came to life on the big screen. Susan, Edmund, Lucy, and Peter. You may remember these names. You may have actually seen the film. It's known as The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. In this film, which depicted what had been written by C.S. Lewis in his children's novels, you see a story here of four kids who go into a wardrobe, and eventually they discover this fantasy land on the other side known as Narnia. Now, Edmund's particularly of interest to us because when Edmund goes through this wardrobe, he meets the White Witch, and the White Witch gives him this Swedish delicacy. And as he takes this delicacy and agrees to go to her castle, he places himself under her authority. Later on in the movie, we actually learn about this lion. This lion's name is Aslan. Aslan is moving to take over the Wicked Witch because this witch has placed Narnia under 100 years of winter. And so we see a confrontation on a clip that we're going to watch here in just a moment. As we watch this clip, the White Witch is coming up and Aslan's there at the front, and you see Edmund over to the side, and as Edmund's there, the witch says, "You have a traitor in your midst." Here we see a depiction of what C.S. Lewis was doing in showing us the atonement. He begins by placing Edmund under the witch's authority, just like us, as sinful human beings, because we've all fallen short of the glory of God and sin. We have placed ourselves in violation of God's law, and we have placed ourselves in opposition to God. And so we have a problem, just like Edmund had a problem. And so the witch comes up to the lion and says to him, "Oh, that traitor belongs to me. I'm going to slay him on the stone tablet." And here at this point, you start seeing these various theories of the atonement go forth. The first one you see is the governmental theory. Developed by Hugo Grotius, this view would put forth that there are laws of nature that God himself cannot violate, and that if God violates these laws, the very fabric of the universe will unravel. And so next, what you see is a conversation that takes place. In this conversation, the White Witch comes out and releases her claim on Edmund. Now, immediately, we don't know exactly what happened, but we learn later that perhaps there's a ransom that has been paid. And perhaps, as Origen or Irenaeus would say, this ransom has been paid to Satan or paid to the White Witch to release Edmund. And so in this ransom, what is the price? It's the price of Aslan's life. And so Aslan goes to be sacrificed, and we see the sacrifice take place, but it doesn't end there. We understand that the White Witch is tricked. The White Witch thinks this is the end of it and even says to Aslan as he's there, "Some example of love this is." But just as the mousetrap theory would put forth, just as the fishhook theory would put forth, you see that Aslan had a better understanding and a better plan. And so throughout history, some have said that when Jesus came to this life, that he put himself, the deity, in the flesh of humanity, so that when that flesh, that hook of deity was swallowed, that there was a fishhook, that there was a mousetrap theory, and that Satan was tricked and we were rescued. But then what we see is the most important view last. We see Aslan coming back off of the stone tablet and talking to the two girls and explaining to them that when a perfect sacrifice, a willing sacrifice, lay down his life for another, that turns back the very tablet or the stones and cracks that stone and turns back death itself. That's what I want you to watch for in this clip that we're going to watch. Watch for all of these views of the atonement and see what else you might be able to pick up. Pay attention as we watch this. We'll come back and talk about it more later.
You have a traitor in your midst, Aslan?
His offense was not against you.
Have you forgotten the laws upon which Narnia was built?
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
Then you'll remember well that every traitor belongs to me. His blood is my property.
Try and take him then.
Do you really think that mere force will deny me my right? Little king. Aslan knows that unless I have blood as the law demands, all of Narnia will be overturned and perish in fire and water. That boy will die on the stone table. As is tradition. You dare not refuse me.
Enough. I shall talk with you alone. She has renounced her claim on the son of Adam's blood.
How do I know your promise will be kept? No, Aslan. I'm a little disappointed in you. Did you honestly think by all this that you could save the human traitor? You are giving me your life and saving no one. So much for love. Tonight, the deep magic will be appeased. But tomorrow, we will take Narnia forever. In that knowledge, despair. And die! The great cat is dead!
Susan! It's Aslan.
What have they done? But we saw the knife. The witch.
If the witch knew the true meaning of sacrifice, she might have interpreted the deep magic differently. That when a willing victim who has committed no treachery is killed in a traitor's stead, the stone table will crack, and even death itself would turn backwards.
Did you see it? Did you see Aslan when he talked to the girls and explained what the law and the misunderstanding the White Witch had of the law? Isn't it miraculous how, C.S. Lewis tells this story, and through this story we can then share the gospel with people? The story of Jesus Christ. God had a plan from the beginning of all eternity. In that plan, Jesus was going to be the ultimate sacrifice, but he set it up in the Old Testament with a sacrificial system. Lambs being slain yearly, not really providing forgiveness, but setting the stage for what John the Baptist would call the Lamb who is to take away the sins of the world. And Jesus Christ dying on the cross in my place, in your place, taking upon the penalty of the sins that we committed as our substitute. You see, it's this penal substitutionary view of the atonement that is the very heart of the gospel. It's the heart of the Old Testament, the New Testament, throughout the Bible. And guess what? It's not just in this film. And so here's your assignment. In the space that's below, I want you to comment on different things you may have seen in this film. Perhaps you want to comment on, did Aslan lay down his life or did they take it from him? Was that accurate? Did he do a good job depicting that? Perhaps you want to focus on some other films or some other movies that depict the atonement and say, well, this one does it really well or this one does it really, really poorly. Here's what I want you to do, though, is I want you to start thinking about TV. I want you to start thinking about movies. I want you to think about every way you can take what our society offers and use it as a way to present the gospel to lost people. And so after you come out of this movie, you can engage a lost person with saying, hey, have you seen that? Did you notice how it represented Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross for me and for you? Did you see this other film? Boy, it did a poor job. You know, in this film, there was no resurrection. There was no resolution to the matter. There was no problem solving. But Jesus has solved the problem. So that's your assignment. Comment on this film, comment on other films, interact with each other, and think creatively about ways you can share the gospel with lost people.